I think the intellectual revolution that's going on now to restore liberty in this country is well on its way, and there's no way they're going to stop the momentum that we have started.
Hey, perfect. I don't know why my microphone came unplugged somehow. Bryan, if you want to hop up here. Bryan from South Carolina, please. I was wondering, I'm like, I don't even see that bar like popping up right there. It's kind of strange, so awesome.
I believe I'm here.
You are here, Bryan. Thank you for coming on. Man, I had your story sent to me like 3 or 4 times yesterday, and when I read that letter that was published out on Facebook, I couldn't, well, actually, you know what, I could believe that the GOP was actually doing this to someone. Before we get into this too much, Bryan, I want you to tell everyone a little bit about you, how you were involved in the GOP, and then what actually happened. And when you get to that point, I'm going to go ahead and post that link to the Facebook letter that you posted on Facebook, basically from what the GOP sent you. So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, my name is Bryan Frank. I'm originally from Ohio, live in South Carolina now. I'm a veteran of the Army, 7 years, and from 93 to 2000. After 96, I was in the regular Army, 93 and 96, and after that I was in Ohio National Guard and Reserves. And during the time in the Reserves and National Guard, I had a good friend that me and him used to go to gun shows and stuff and get VHS tapes of the truth about Waco and Ruby Ridge, and that got my mind going about how government really is. And I moved down to South Carolina in 2001, looking for better work and warmer place to live. I knew the Constitution pretty good, especially being in the military. I was actually one that read it. That's why they get a lot of young people, because they don't. Every once in a while I'd get a seatbelt ticket or something like that, and that'd really irritate me. And the last time I got a seatbelt ticket, I paid my ticket, and I made a YouTube video out of it, but I paid my ticket in pennies and nickels. And the secretary was refusing to take it, and she had to get the judge out there, and me and the judge were arguing. And he said, if we're a penny short, I'm going to take your license. And I had a receipt in my hand, and I said, if you take my license, I'm going to hold you personally responsible. That was my last YouTube channel before it got deleted, but it was pretty fun. But I got a ticket for disorderly conduct one time for going through a roadblock after I got off work. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was in my town, and it was right at a traffic light. The light was red as I'm pulling up to it, and right as I'm about to get there, it turned green. So I kept on going right through, and I was being yelled at, "Stop, stop!" And I got pulled over by about 5 cops right in a row, real quick, like 5-10 seconds. And I rolled down my window, and I looked at the cop. I rolled it down just a few inches, and I looked at the cop, and I said, "Did I have a tail light out?" He starts yelling at me. His face turns red. "You went through a roadblock." I said, "Isn't that a violation of my 4th Amendment?" And got to arguing with him. He said, "I could take you to jail." Well, he didn't take me to jail, but he did give me a disorderly conduct ticket. He didn't give me a ticket for going through a roadblock. It was disorderly conduct because he knew I knew more than him. I got out of that in court. It was kind of fun. And then at work, my buddy told me about Ron Paul back in May of 2007. And he said, "I think you'll like him. Google him." I said, "Who the hell's Ron Paul?" He said, "Just Google him, Bryan. I know you'll like him." And from there, he woke up this monster that I am now. I haven't watched a full game of football since 2006. Totally ruined my football season in 2007. And I had like 5 fantasy football teams every year. It sucks now, but that's all right. It's the way it goes. And 2007, I campaigned for Ron Paul quite a bit all over South Carolina, and I went to the first Tea Party event, the first modern-day Tea Party event, not the neocon one, but in December 16th, 2007, I drove from South Carolina to Boston and got to meet Rand Paul in Boston. And I threw my little tea packet in the harbor, And that was actually the first modern-day Tea Party that nobody knows about because nobody's willing to talk about that Ron Paul started it, not anybody else, not Santelli. Santelli made it bigger for all the neocons, but Ron Paul started that. I went to a bunch of rallies, got in some newspapers, got interviewed a bunch of times. It was kind of fun. I had my 15 minutes of fame already. I'm done. But what else? Oh, in 2009, I was elected delegate to the Continental Congress for South Carolina. I went up to Chicago, Illinois for 11 days, and we created what's called the Articles of Freedom. And we sent it to all the senators and congressmen and governor and to the president. We basically outlined what they're doing wrong, what they need to do, and it basically went to the wayside in the garbage bucket. Then Ron Paul runs again in 2011, and we got him to run. A few days after we had a big Greenville Tea Party rally that my buddy Chris Lawton started, and he announced he was running. A few days later, he seen that we were fired up, and he's going to do it again. And I believe that was a Greenville Tea Party rally that got him to run again this time. I've been interviewed by Tom Brokaw, and that was pretty cool. Guy's pretty old, but he still knows his stuff. It's just been a long ride and pretty fun. And I got involved in the GOP in 2007. I was rallying with my Ron Paul sign at a Mitt Romney event in my county in Cherokee County, and the chairman at the time told me that I should join the party, that they need young people like me and willing to get out there and do things most of those old folks won't do. And that's when I joined the GOP, and I was a state delegate for the GOP in 2009 and won precinct president last year. And I think it was Ron Paul that got me kicked out. Every time, the last several months, every time I go to a meeting, they all say, we got to support our nominee. We got to support Mitt Romney. And I always interrupt them. I said, Mitt Romney's not our nominee. He could be, but it's between Mitt Romney and Ron Paul. I'm not going to concede until after the national convention. Well, pretty much as soon as the national convention was over, that's when I got kicked out of the GOP.
And actually, Bryan, do you mind if I play that video of you getting interviewed by Tom Brokaw?
No, that's cool.
I thought it was pretty neat watching that, so I thought I'd share that really quick. It's not a long video. It's only about 2 minutes long.
Remember, video adds 10 pounds.
Situation wants to have a longer unemployment period of time because of a unique situation here, fine. But to have a federal program that roughly and clearly tries to assess the problem of unemployment from state to state, area to area, is the wrong approach. What we should do is have it just like welfare. Give it to the states, put a time limit. In the case of welfare,
you're a forklift driver.
Give flexibility to the states
right. Yes,
to operate those programs.
Multi-billion-dollar.
I mean, you can have, as we did on
What
welfare,
got you involved
have some sort of either work requirement or job training required.
Well, I'm a veteran, I'm a Christian, and in 2007 I found out about Ron Paul. My friend of mine at work said, Google Ron Paul, you'll like him. What do you mean I like him? I was into football and everything. I Googled him, and ever since then I haven't watched football, haven't really watched TV. I'm on the internet, helping support. Part of this meetup that started this, that we see right here, and Chris Lawton started it. I'm co-organizer.
So what is it specifically about him that makes you feel that you can run the country and protect the interests of everyone?
Well, I took that oath just like Ron Paul did. And he defends it 100% of the time. He has a voting record to prove it. He has my heart. I mean, there's nobody in the world that says what I think the way he does. I guarantee he could. He gets independents, he gets Democrats, he gets Republicans. He brings people together. Freedom brings people together.
He has been able to win any Republican primaries.
He'll win South Carolina. We're an open primary state. He'll win it. Absolutely. He has the money. He has people like me that will send him hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Even though I get a little tiny paycheck, I'll do it. And people all around you. I think that I would like to see Ron Paul president. I don't want to see Barack Obama president. And whatever he believes, whatever's best for him, I want to see. Well, yes. Yes, definitely. I won't vote for the lesser two evils because we still get evil.
Maximize dependency is terrible for the future.
See, that's pretty cool. I like how you're actually able to say that to Tom Brokaw. I mean, some people would fold and they would actually kind of be nervous to say that in front of him, and you had the balls to stand up and say that. So I applaud you for that. Now,
I was very nervous.
Yeah?
Yes, I was.
The next thing that I'm going to give out now, I want you to talk about how you just received this letter on the 7th. Well, you might have received it a couple days later, but there's a letter sent out on the 7th of this month, if you could talk about that.
Well, I was told I was getting kicked out Thursday or Friday last week, and they said they're having a meeting on Friday. I guess they had their meeting. This was sent to me. I actually had it in my mailbox on Monday. And basically, I put things on my Facebook page. I put things on the Cherokee County Facebook page. Not saying that I'm supporting anybody, because I did know the rules. Wasn't saying that I'm endorsing anybody. I just put Barack Obama stuff. I put Gary Johnson stuff. I put Mitt Romney stuff. Now, granted, the Mitt Romney and the Obama stuff, it was basically comparisons, and there is no comparison because they're the same. And it was pro-Johnson, of course. But as I have a freedom of speech and freedom of press, I was acting as both. And so I didn't think I was doing anything wrong because I didn't say I am voting for Gary Johnson in November, and I definitely didn't say that I'm sending him money. And they kicked me out. They wrote me the letter. It's to inform me that I gave up my own office because I broke Rule 4 and 5, which says that I can't publicly endorse or financially support a candidate from a different party. And I don't believe I did that. I did now, but at the time I didn't.
So do you think that there's any way that you could have fought it if you wouldn't have come out and publicly endorsed it? And even probably now, I mean, now that you're not on there, you never actually did any endorsing or sending them money, or at least told them that you're sending money while you were on the precinct committee. I mean, is there anything that you could do to fight that?
It's not worth fighting. What happened now, I mean, if you looked at that Facebook, my picture on Facebook, it was shared 97 times. And what that means is the average person has between 1,500 and 5,000 friends. You multiply that, that's already possibly been seen by 300,000 or 400,000 people. I think John Major helped the Libertarian Party grow and helped Gary Johnson's popularity.
Yeah, I mean, all it's really doing is exposing their true agenda and getting all the Liberty people out, regardless of who they support. If it's not their person that they're running for, like if it's not for Mitt Romney or Obama, they don't want him in that party, because even if you don't agree with everything Gary Johnson says, he's a heck of a lot better than a Ron Paul. So when people start waking up and they do find better and better candidates out there, they're going to realize what they are getting from the GOP is complete garbage. And when they start losing their votes, well, hopefully that party might die, or at least change their ways to actually incorporate the good candidates in there so their party becomes validated again and actually is worth voting for.
You know, we're lucky in South Carolina because South Carolina is one of the first states to vote. And so all the candidates come to South Carolina all over the state. And I met a lot of supporters for a lot of different candidates. Like, I met some diehard Gingrich supporters. I met some diehard Bachmann supporters. Definitely in my area, upstate, I met some diehard Santorum supporters, and definitely some diehard Ron Paul supporters. I still have not met any diehard Romney supporters. I don't know where he's getting the support, because he doesn't have it from anybody I've met in the last several years. There are no diehard Romney supporters. Where the hell is he getting the support?
I have a feeling it's mostly from the big banks, Wall Street, people like that, over Spain, Italy, the Cayman Islands, you know, Switzerland, wherever he has all his big bank accounts. So I believe if you'd actually see a true representation of, like, middle class, lower class, upper class, and then, like, Bilderberg elite, like if you looked at the breakdown of percentage of donations to who's funded Romney, I bet he'd be in the top easily 98, 99% of his funding is from the wealthy, rich, and then the Bilderberg like elite group. Like there's no way that he's getting middle class to lower funding. There's no drive to go and support Romney. There isn't. It's just nobody actually goes out there and campaigns for Romney like Ron Paul has got campaigning from all of us and from donations and word of mouth. So it's disgusting to see the media just lie about all these numbers, and even the Federal Elections Committee. The FEC is not doing a very good job keeping Romney's numbers straight, and it's just more corporate whoring, basically, by the media and by all the other groups that are supposed to be watching out in these elections, making sure everyone is held to the same light of truth.
Oh, I wanted to tell you something else. This is how much I'm liked by the establishment around here. In January, when I voted for Ron Paul in the primary, I made a video, put it on YouTube. This is how you vote for Ron Paul in the primary. I voted absentee because I was working during the election. So I made a video before the election. This is how you vote for Ron Paul in the primary. From what I hear, somebody from another county called Cherokee County Election Board. They told my state senator told the South Carolina Attorney General, and the South Carolina Attorney General sent it to the, my district solicitor's office. I got a letter back in May, 4 or 5 months later, that they weren't prosecuting me for violating the law. In South Carolina, you're not allowed to show anybody your ballot. That's the law. You're not, if my wife's next to me, I can't say, hey, come look at who I'm voting for. I can't not do that in South Carolina. That is a crime, and it's punishable, I believe, by a year in prison and $5,000 fine. And the letter said that they're not prosecuting, but don't do it again. And I believe the only reason that they didn't prosecute is because they knew there would be a bunch of Ron Paul supporters outside the courthouse trying to get me out, like they do all over the country. Ron Paul supporters get together like that. But this is how crazy it is. If I would have voted for the Grinch or Romney, it probably wouldn't have happened. But and it was probably a little embarrassing for the election commission to have somebody videotape their vote and them not see. I made sure I wore a big fat coat so I can videotape myself voting. But this is how it is around here. And the people that don't like John Major, they probably still don't like me, but they don't like him more. All this is making him look like an ass, and they're ready to get a new chairman. And I might end up running for chairman myself because reorganization is in March.
Yeah, for sure. I would run for it if I was you. I would try to get in to whatever political seat you could get in, so at least you could try to straighten things out. The chairman's pretty powerful, so you still have to have the people in there to at least put up resolutions and vote on stuff like that. But you're definitely working in the right direction to cleaning up the party, at least in South Carolina.
For precinct president and precinct county executive committee men, all you need to do is bring a few neighbors, 3 or 4 or 5 people with you, and you win. And then a month later, you'll have your county convention, and if you bring 10 or 15 people that will vote for you, depending on what size county, but I don't know, not very many people, you can win chairman or county executive committeeman. It doesn't take that many. It just takes us getting the word out, maybe even going through Campaign for Liberty and seeing who in your county is a member of Campaign for Liberty and saying, hey, buddy, come show up. Or if you have any college kids that live down the road from you, buy them a case of beer. Say, are you a voter? Come vote for me.
That's not a bad way to do it either. If Romney can do it with subs, why can't you do it with beer? At least there are American citizens that are going to be voting for you.
Right. Just make sure they're 21 or over.
Somebody, I think there's a rumor or something flying around that Ron Paul or somebody who's going to be speaking here. Ron Paul is not going to be speaking here. So I don't know where this strange rumor came around that Ron Paul is going to be making an appearance. I don't think Ron Paul, like Doug Weed, does not know how to use Tiny Chat or anything like that. So nobody.
I know Doug Weed doesn't.
Right. Doug Weed had to have someone else in the room come set it up. He was very perplexed by this stuff. So, but yeah, did anyone have any questions for Bryan? Otherwise, we can let Bryan continue talking. I mean, he sounds like he's got a pretty good laundry list of everything that he's done, at least for Ron Paul.
Hey, Chuck Suter. You know, there's a lot of people that don't like me. I am pretty abrasive. I say what I think. I mean what I say. But you don't want to lie to anybody. And sometimes I'm too truthful. You know, back when I was dating, and what girls say, "Do you think this makeup looks nice on me?" I'm like, no. But sometimes you got to tell the truth. Wherever you are, even if it hurts somebody's feelings. I mean, you don't have to be so abrasive like I am, but that's just what you do. And that's why I like Ron Paul so much. He has a way better and more elegant way of saying things than I do, and that's why I like him, but he definitely tells the truth. Ron Paul also got me involved in gold and silver. I never bought gold or silver until I found out about Ron Paul, about money, and got his book, had him sign my book. And a month and a half ago, I was a forklift driver at Dollar General Distribution. I've been thinking about 5 months to start my own gold buying and selling company, and I did. Right now, I own my own gold buying business called Fortress Precious Metals. I put the link up here. Hopefully, now it says don't spam on there, but I put my link up there. Hopefully people click my link and like my page. You know, and by the way, Obama did not start that, and Romney didn't either. And you know, there's a few ways that they can bring you down, and one way is legislation, a lot of legislation in gold buying or regulation. And my place is in Spartanburg County, and I had to go through a lot of regulation through Sheriff's Department. I have to get a permit from the Sheriff's Department to be able to buy gold and silver. Is that crazy or what? In Greenville County is the same thing, and we have one place set up just like mine. It's 3 of us that got in a business together, and we're going to open up, by the end of the year, about 5 different gold buying places. And in Greenville County, we're being held up by the sheriff because he doesn't want to give us a permit right away. And we've been renting this place for about a month, and we still don't have a permit. But there's regulation and legislation, and I'm being held up by regulation right now. But Ron Paul got me started doing this. And if I fall flat on my face, at least I can say I tried, rather than keep on driving a forklift for Dollar General Distribution saying, what if all my life.
Now, are you going to be buying and selling actual physical gold, or just like gold certificates?
No gold certificates. I want physical gold, and I want to put physical gold and silver in people's hands. That's money. I just trade fake money for real money.
That's the way to do it, you know. I mean, at least you know that your purchase is actually probably gaining you money instead of actually losing money. When you buy debt, you're not buying debt with debt. You're actually buying an investment, an actual real currency with money. So
right. Yeah. When I buy gold and silver, I buy real money with fake money, and they're happy about it.
Somebody's asking down in the chat, what coin would you recommend?
A lot of people ask me that at work, and they ask me, should I get silver rounds or should I get silver eagles? And a lot of people trust silver eagles because it was minted in the United States. It was minted by the U.S. Treasury. I tell them silver rounds. That's my suggestion, because to me, an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. It doesn't matter who mints it. Even if it's a big, ugly clump of silver, it's still an ounce of silver. So I wouldn't pay the high premium on silver eagles. I would go with just silver rounds minted by Nevada Mint or U.S. AOCS or something like that. AOCS has some awesome Ron Paul rounds. And if you like my company page, you can call me tomorrow. My phone number is on the website. And if you send me a check or money, I can send you silver. You can buy it from me, and from me, I'll sell it to you for $250 over spot, which is pretty dang good.
Yeah, I mean, there's other people asking about if you can talk about pennies 1981 and earlier. Some people are saying go with the bars, but I have a feeling that the bars are probably a little bit more of an investment than the actual coins are in the rounds.
Oh, no. Bars are even cheaper way than the rounds. They're not minted by the U.S. government. Bars are still silver. 1 ounce bar is same weight as 1 ounce round or 1 ounce American Eagle, and bars are actually cheaper to get. So Chris 80 is right. Go with bars if you just want silver.
So what would be the benefit of that then? I mean, silver, isn't it? So why wouldn't more people just go with the bars instead of the coins or the rounds?
Well, depends on who you trust, whether you trust AOCS or you trust the U.S. Treasury, or you trust them the same. If you trust them the same, go with bars and rounds rather than the U.S. Treasury. But some people don't trust anybody else but the U.S. government, and they go with American Eagles.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Eagles are pretty, but in order for me to buy American Eagles from the United States Treasury, I have to buy a minimum of 25,000 Eagles at $2 over spot. So that's why there's a higher premium on Eagles, because whoever buys it has to pass it off to the customer.
Right, yeah, it costs quite a bit more for you to actually purchase something. I mean, there's not very many people that go in and invest $50,000 at a time.
Oh, that's more than 50,000. That's about $900,000 to buy 25,000 Eagles at $2 over spot.
Right, but what do you think your average investment is when someone comes in? Do you think that you have more just the small time people that come in with maybe $500, maybe $2,000-$3,000, or do you have the large investors come in?
In the last 2 weeks, I had a purchase of about $2,500 and $1,500. And these are people that are members of the Republic. I don't know if you know anything about the Republic, but I'm friends with a lot of them, and they're buying up as much silver as they can right now because they believe the banks are going to be dropping off come October, November, and definitely after the election.
We don't have that much time left with Bryan. Does anyone else has any questions for him?
Please like my Facebook page for my company. You don't have to like my page, but like my company Facebook page. That'll help me. And when there's a Facebook page that has a lot of likes, it just looks better for the competition around me. And I do ship, Jason Johnson. Come to the end of the Fed, September 22nd in Charlotte. I will try my best, Chuck, and I've been to a few of those too, and they're pretty fun. And thank you, Evan. Evan Mulch is a guy in Spartanburg. He's a good friend of mine, and he tells me to stand up for liberty, and he's preaching to the choir because to me he's awesome at that, better than I am.
Bryan, one last question. Somebody had for you, basically they were wondering if you had any thoughts on Gary Johnson's fair tax.
Well, he doesn't say he supports a fair tax without saying we must get rid of the IRS first. And I agree with that 100%. In order to get the fair tax, which is closer to what all of us want, we have to get rid of the IRS first. And that's the way he says it, and I agree with him on it. He's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement over the other two clowns that we have going. So
yeah, so we gotta get rid of the IRS to get the fair tax, and then we'll talk about the fair tax after that. And it's not fair and it's not right, but it's still better than the IRS. And most people don't realize how much we spend on filling out the bookkeeping for their IRS. We're slaves. We do their bookkeeping for them, and we don't get paid for that, but we do it. And some people spend $1,000 a year. You know, a family does. Last year, I spent about $400 because I got multi-level marketing things and business and stuff, and it costs a lot of money to do the IRS's bookkeeping for them, and we are slaves.
I agree with you, man. Bryan, thank you for coming on. I'll have to have you back again. We can have you on for a whole hour sometime, and you can just talk about your business and investing and stuff. I think that people would really like to hear what you have to say. So I thank you for coming on. If you want, you can plug your website one more time before you take off, and we get the other Bryan up here. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
You don't have to tell me twice. Thank you very much, man. I've been watching your videos for a while. You're pretty good. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good time, Bryan. All right, and our next guest is another Bryan. Easy to remember. This one is from Maine. Bryan, thank you for coming on, man.
No, not a problem. How you doing, man?
I am good. I am good. A little, still trying to process all that stuff. I mean, there's been a whole lot of information been coming out about everything in the past week. So, we already got a question down below asking Bryan, did you get into the convention? And I think I can even answer that one saying yes, because I believe I saw you on national television.
Yes, I did make it into the convention. Actually, I was one of the 10 that was left on the list that the RNC 9-state committee picked. So I did make it. I got my credentials every day. Maine was one of the only states that actually had to pick up their credentials on a day-by-day basis. So I actually missed the breakfast with Ron Paul on the first day. I was kind of bummed about that.
Well, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you've become involved with the Ron Paul campaign, when you started, and what happened this year, basically, because you saw everything firsthand up in Maine. I mean, you literally were down in the pit fighting to become a delegate and to make sure this all happened. So I want to hear it from your perspective.
Sure. I first got involved in September. I went down to a local meeting, and I met Eric Brakey, who was one of the state organizers here. And then not soon after that, I sort of got drafted to do the Penobscot County coordination with Sam Canders. And, from there, it was a learning experience. I'd never been involved with a national campaign at all on that level. I supported Dr. Paul back in 2008, but I was more one of those sideline supporters that would more or less write stuff and talk about it rather than go out and be about it. And so this time around, I really wanted to make sure I was involved firsthand and could change things with my hand and not just my heart. And so after that, we really did a great job organizing in Maine. I have to say that that's the main reason why we won, was we had just, supporters that would go to the hilt for any of the events and causes that we were trying to promote. And we also, we were really organized. We were a well-oiled machine. It's funny because looking back on a lot of the stuff, it's almost like we're all riding on unicorns and farting rainbows, excuse me. But, we think we have such high hopes for, the process and integrity, and that people will respect the rules. And, obviously a lot of what I learned this year was they'll keep poking you with that dagger until either you leave or you die. So, there was a lot of good lessons there. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with a lot of things that occurred here in Maine, from our straw poll, disenfranchisement, voter fraud, from everything at our state convention to where, you had Romney supporters and other supporters that were, trying some tactics that were less savory. And, it's pretty well documented on YouTube and as well as on mainforronpaul.org.
Now, I received some messages from you in the past. When Maine was getting basically fought for from the Romney campaign, you were talking about how you thought that there is some type of, I guess, not something natural that the Ron Paul campaign was doing or not doing to fight back. Was that correct?
Well, I had my concerns there. There was a big lapse of information getting back and forth from the campaign to, the actual delegates on the ground. I felt that could have been a lot more done. and we could have been a little bit more prepared. And maybe part of it was being left out of the loop, really, from the campaign's perspective. And then you read these stories and you see these things, and you wonder why things aren't catching on. And as far as the campaign is concerned, I think they did. I don't know. I feel indifferent still. I feel like they could have done a lot better job. But at the same token, I am proud of them stepping up at the last moment to try to help out some of the delegations. We have to remember that the power of the national delegates have been, basically eroded over the last 48 years. Since 1964. They've been trying to plug away and streamline this system to take it from a convention to really what we have today as a coronation. And, they've done that systematically. In 1988, they sort of got rid of the vice presidential nominations, and, they do a lot more by acclamation. Even while we were down in Tampa, a lot of the buses that were taking people to these events, they were asking, the RNC was asking them to basically sign over their rights as delegates so they could do everything by either what's called acclamation, which is just a rubber stamp. So if it comes down to a vote, they don't even have to bring it to the vote because they already have 2/3 majority. So, like I said, I'm not going to despairingly talk bad about the campaign. I think there's a lot of people that do that. Whether there's a valid concern for that or not, I'll leave that up on everybody's individual, appeal to it. So.
I think it's very important that we do talk about the downfalls and the bad things that actually did take place this year and possibly in 2008, because we need to learn from it. We need to make sure that we don't do the same mistakes over come 2016. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be in the Ron Paul campaign come 2016, but whoever we are supporting, we need to make sure that we do not make the same mistake with the grassroots. There wasn't a very steady flow of information going back and forth, and there's a little bit of a lapse sometimes. That's something that we all need to work on and make sure that we do let them know ahead of time that, hey, we want to be very involved. And then if they stop and they don't actually start doing that, we need to be the ones to hold them accountable and make sure that they do continue or resume sharing and just basically doing everything they can to make sure we're all on the same page.
And I agree with you. I mean, really one of the biggest things, the downfalls that we had was the miscommunication. And, we can go back and say, geez, that was a horrible time for for Rand Paul to endorse Romney. There's a lot of different things that had happened over the time. But I think what it boils down to is a lot of these candidates, regardless who they are or what they're running for, they have a circle around them, and it's there for protection as well as it's their, they're political consultants. They get paid for the job. At some point, they have to look at where their next paycheck is coming from. So do they, break the eggs to make the omelet, or do they just sort of, let it all fall by the wayside and let the eggs rot? And I think there was a little bit of both in this. I really do. I think, from talking to people, I was involved with a core delegates group that, it was more of a grassroots group that tried to identify pluralities for all the states and to make sure that just in case the campaign did just leave us all by our lonesome, that we would already have the ground organization to make sure that we could at least get the nomination in for Ron Paul. So, I mean, there was a lot of work in the background there. I know the campaign was kind of upset about it being taken out of their control. And that's really what everything boils down to, is control. If they feel that they can't control you or control your actions or control what you say, then, people try to nix you. They want to make sure that it's not going to be egg on their face.
Yeah, they definitely want to make sure that anything that would be associated with them is not going to tarnish or leave any type of negativity on their reputation or anything like that. But I believe that Ron Paul, of all people, and I believe he does know this, he should know that the grassroots are going to do what the grassroots want to do. That's what makes them grassroots. They're just not the sheep that fall in line and follow whatever the campaign is going to say or tell them to do. So I think that's important, that we need to continue that too. We need to always be independent and not worry about what the campaign is doing. We need to do what's going to be best for us. And if the campaign doesn't follow through on their promises, then I'm sorry, we're done with that campaign. We need to find someone that's going to understand that if they want to represent the grassroots, they're going to have to let the grassroots do what the grassroots does and actually be themselves and not just be the putty in their hands that they want everyone to be.
Well, I think when you decentralize, and I've worked with a lot of different groups over this last year, and you know, it's one of the most difficult aspects of everything that I'm involved with is, you know, especially when you talk about liberty-minded people, because it's like herding cats. You know, everybody has their own individuality, which we all respect, you know, and we have, you know, choices that we have to make and responsibilities, and we want to make sure that we do things ethically right and that we want to do the same things that these groups of people are doing to us, you know. And I think that's the most important thing, is that you don't lose grasp of that, and that you're concentrating that you're doing this for the right reason rather than, you know, some political ambition or, you know, for an article or, you know, even for an interview or something, you know. So decentralized groups, I think, are good. And then going back together as a larger group and working together, that, you know, you have to work collectively and you have to trust the people that you're working with, and, you know, that plays a big part of it, you know.
Yeah, I agree. You don't happen to have that video clip that's up on YouTube where, I don't know if it's before or after the interview, but you're talking about how you were talking to all the main delegates basically in the group, and you were very emotional during that. I can't find that anywhere, and I'd love to use that. Do you have that?
Yeah, I'll have somebody post it there in the link. Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what, it's sad because that one video that you played earlier, it's got like 180,000 views, and my own kids have never seen me cry until that point. So, you know, to have that go viral on that point, you know, it's a hardship to see that, and it definitely evokes a lot of the emotions that were there today. I mean, it wasn't just that occurrence. I mean, when I first got down there, you know, everything was, we weren't really told what was really going on, what the RNC would do. They, you know, they basically changed the rules 3 or 4 times to, you know, accommodate the challengers in the case. And then they ultimately, you know, in the credentialing committee, just blew us out of the water. And that was really disheartening that day. And then we went back through, and, you know, just everything that we had that transpired that whole week, it was really an emotional week. And by the time that, you know, we got to day 2 of the convention and we were on the floor, and, you know, we had our amendment that we wanted to have an up and down vote on for the credentialing committee to get the rest of our delegates sat. And we made sure that we put that in a timely fashion. We actually had somebody follow the guy into the back room, you know, to make sure that they turned those in. And sure enough, when it came time to vote for the credentialing report, you know, and we already had our whip that was there, they provided by the RNC. You'll notice that they all had the Romney caps on and stuff. But, you know, we had told them before that we were hoping to have the mic turned on so that we could make this objection, you know, hours before this. And, you know, finally, like 5 minutes before the vote, he came back up and he's like, oh, no, we're not allowed to turn the mics on unless, you know, the campaign makes some agreement with the RNC. And that's not following any of the rules, you know. And so, you know, right then we were on the fly. We had to act on the fly. And as soon as that came out, we, you know, there was, you know, tons of objections. You know, you only need one. But they would never turn the mic on. I actually, Brent Tweed, our delegation chair, and he was the chair to our convention here in Maine, he reached back and he's like, grabbed the phone and called back to this back room. So that's what I'm doing. I called back, and sure enough, you know, I don't know if they just put the handset on the ground and let me talk, but I ended up reading the same amendment that Brent Tweed was reading on the floor. You know, they completely ignored us there. We were at a crossroads as a delegation trying to decide whether, you know, do we stay for the rules fight? Do we just leave after they, you know, after they cut our people? Or, you know, at what point is it best for us to go? And I have to say that it was the best part about that week was knowing that, you know, I've worked with a lot of great people up here, and to see that there's so many other great people in all these other states, Jeremy Blosser, Jay Lake from Nevada, I mean, Texas, Oklahoma, I mean, all of them. They're just some great people. And so the last thing we wanted to do was, you know, leave them out there. We knew how important the rules were, so we stayed for the rules as well. And we, you know, obviously everybody knows how well that went. But after that, you know, it was pretty evident that, you know, they're just going to railroad this process, and, you know, it was time for us to go. So, you know, I grabbed the delegation chair and we walked out. And I don't know, by the time I got to those steps, you know, I was pretty well raw. And, you know, obviously the raw emotion that came out from a lot of people, not just myself, but, you know, it's a hardship. You put a lot of effort and time and money and just loving what you're doing, and then to watch the process just be railroaded like that was probably the most disheartening thing. You know, a lot of people get it confused. It's not so much about Ron Paul, it's about the message. And, you know, what part of that message is making sure that we're, you know, we have these rules and we follow these rules, and, you know, it's transparent and it's fair, and let the numbers talk. And unfortunately, you know, my experience has been anything but that this year. It's not been anything but sausage making, I guess you would call it.
It's more of a tyranny than a republic, if anything. It's just kind of ruled by one, and that's about it. I'm going to play that video clip of you, and then after that, if you can talk about and describe how you were interviewed by CNN. I can't remember. It was Dana Bash, wasn't it? Or
yeah, it was Dana Bash. Yep.
And she is such an idiot too. Like I've seen videos of her getting confronted because she talks so much garbage about Ron Paul and his supporters. So I'm surprised that she actually acknowledged you or even talked to you. So you're one of those rare.
They were definitely looking for a story. It's funny that you mentioned that. I basically told her right after the interview. She says to me, "See, I'm interviewing you, Ron Paul people. I'm doing you guys justice." And I said, "Yeah, there's been some discrepancy in your reporting up to this point, but I'm just glad you're here now, Dana." And I just sort of spun off. But all right, I'll let you play that video. That was fun.
Yeah.
We turn now to a major eruption of fury.
Those opposed, no. Maine got screwed of half their delegates.
Of his 24 delegates.
Convention is a farce! They talk in there talking about we support our soldiers. They got rid of 7 of them on our delegation. 2 recently serving in Afghanistan and Iraq. How dare they? Shame on them! Shame on them!
The people of Maine should be respected. Those voters that put us here, they should be respected. This is a sham. I love every one of you guys, and I love all those people back home.
I'm going to play the Dana Bash interview really quick, and then we can talk about that afterwards. Is that okay?
Sure. Yep.
About these new rules when it comes to selecting delegates to represent these different candidates. Tell me about this.
That's right, Brooke. Ron Paul delegates from various states, but particularly states where he did well, like Maine, are very unhappy for a number of reasons. And I want to bring in one of those delegates. This is Bryan Daugherty from the state of Maine.
Yes.
Tell me why you were protesting earlier here on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I really feel that RNC has not followed the rules. They've thrown out our duly elected delegates. They're up here in the stands while there's 10 delegates and 10 alternates that were replaced by a 9-state committee that didn't include any of the input from Maine voters. You know, Maine people came out to our caucus and our conventions, 2,500 plus, and, you know, they elected us to represent Ron Paul.
And one of your main committee women is in the Rules Committee right now trying to fight this, right, to get
Well,
Ron Paul
she's in the
supporters.
Rules Committee to try to fight two of the rules that they are trying to pose along. The credentialing committee met this last week, and they decided which delegates would or would not be seated. And you know, we were really hoping that they would follow their own rules, which state 17. Rule 17 states that if they were to, if it's within 10 days of the convention, that it would go back to the duly elected delegates.
And then there's another rule that you all are very upset about. Even Sarah Palin weighed in earlier today about changing the rules for future conventions.
Yeah,
that
well,
could make it hard for someone like you to be here, right?
Yeah, well, it basically gives them a rubber stamp to change the rules any which way they want. We are delegates elected across the nation to represent the body of the Republican Party. And, you know, it's our input that is, you know, that is needed because it's our party. Unfortunately, now they can change the rules at will without, with 3/4 of the executive committee.
And let's talk more broadly about Congressman Ron Paul.
Absolutely.
You were protesting earlier. You were one of the several because he's not speaking. He was offered a speaking slot, though, right?
He was offered a speaking spot, but under two conditions. One, that they would have to vet all of his remarks, and two, that he would have to fully endorse Mitt Romney. Now, for a man that's put 30 years into, you know, fighting for American people, unfortunately, they're going to stick a 2-minute video that they've clipped and put just to support the Mitt Romney's positions, and it says nothing about auditing or the National Defense Authorization Act. It says nothing against the erosion of our liberties and everything that Dr. Paul stood for. And you know, it's disheartening.
It does have something on auditing the Fed, though, correct?
It does have some on auditing the Fed, yes.
Now, they are having Ron Paul's son, Senator Rand Paul, speak. Is that a consolation for you?
He's another great senator from Kentucky who is fighting for liberty and fighting for the Republican Party.
And one last question before I let you go. You're clearly not happy, and you're not the only one here. How are you going to show that, illustrate that as the days go on here?
We would like to amend the credentialing report when it's brought to the floor, and if that's possible, we would like to get our duly elected delegates sat back on the floor. As far as my own personal resolve, if they're not willing to sit 7 out of 8 who were veterans, a priest, a pastor, a Native American, and countless women back on this floor, and allow the RNC 9-state committee who picked these other delegates to continue to sit here, I really don't want to participate after that.
So
I will walk off the floor, yes.
Okay, well, we'll be keeping in touch with you to see how you're feeling about how things go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And, you know, Brooke, I spent a considerable amount of time during the primary season covering.
No, I'm not going to let her talk. I can't stand her actually talking.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she actually I was sitting down and we were discussing over and under the main delegation sign there. And she had walked up, and at first I didn't even know who she was. She's like, we had reporters just hound us as soon as we were there. So, you know, at first she asked me a few questions, and I just rambled off to her. And she goes, well, do you mind if we do a live interview? And I was like, yeah, sure. She goes, oh, by the way, I'm Dana Bash. And I'm just like, oh, geez, I hate you, don't I? You know, and, you know, it was like 10 minutes after that we did the interview. There was some great Ron Paul supporters that were just surrounded there too, and you know, it was I don't really do media all that much, so that was my first real interview I ever did. So to have her do it, and then just I felt more comfortable having a lot of good Ron Paul people around me anyway. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that being on live national TV is kind of a little nerve-wracking, so yeah, I think you did a great job in there. Now, Bryan, you've lived in Maine your whole life, haven't you?
No, actually, I'm originally from upstate New York, and I moved up here about 3.5 years ago. And you know, I have to say, I love it up here. I'll die a Mainer for sure.
That's cool. It was hard to. It sounded like in that interview, it sounded like you had kind of that northern accent that I have. I'm from Minnesota. We say a lot of A's and yas and stuff like that. I thought I heard some Maine in you, but maybe it's rubbed off while you've been there for 3.5 years.
Yeah, I think it has. You know, I used to actually, I probably shouldn't say this on an interview, but when I first got up here, I've been coming to Maine for, my whole life. But when I first got up here, you know, everybody adds an AR or a AH on the end of everything. So I used to sort of pick on them, you know, pick on people or use my Maine accent like that, the thick one. And I think it just caught hold after a while.
That's awesome. Did anyone have any questions for Bryan while we have him up here? We got him for a couple more minutes. Or is
Yeah,
there
I have
any?
to show. Well, then nobody's looking. We'll have to show these great shirts from the Texas delegation from down there. They, as you can see, they have. Remember the Maine, the Oklahoma, the Oregon, the Massachusetts, and I'm forgetting one, huh? Louisiana. These shirts. Yeah, Jeremy Blotzer from Texas hooked up those shirts, so it was pretty great. Oh, so I see somebody asked who's Canders. Just to give him a quick plug there, I'm the campaign manager for Sam Canders. He's a state house candidate for District 15. He's one of the Ron Paul delegates that actually was not seated. He was one of the veterans. You know, for somebody to take mortar fire and protect our freedoms abroad and to not have their voices, like I said, there was actually 6 out of 7 veterans that didn't get sat. You know, 2 pastor, priest, a Native American, and countless women. You know, and for a party that espouses diversity in a big tent, you know, I was really disappointed that, you know, especially the veterans didn't get their right to voice their opinions.
I agree with you. I can't believe, like, I saw that actually when you guys were doing that press conference outside, you're talking about who they all kicked out, and it's amazing on who they actually disenfranchised. I mean, they disenfranchised basically the whole state of Maine and so many countless other states too down there. But for the individual delegates, I mean, if you looked at who they were, and I know it's not really about who they are, but just the credibility that they had, I mean, they really just spit in their face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people asking, are you going to stay involved and what are you going to be doing after this? You just said that you're going to be the campaign manager for Canders, but what else are you going to be doing?
Well, I'm currently also the state committee man. When we had our state convention here in Maine, you know, we basically took anything that wasn't nailed down. Besides the delegates, we got about 38 new seats on the state committee out of 80. And, you know, with our new national committee man and committee woman, we have, you know, we have half at least. So, you know, we are in the front seat a little bit. We might not be driving the car here, but we are in the front seat. We've got some great Liberty candidates that are, you know, across the state that are running. Besides working with Sam, I also work with, I was just asked as a county coordinator for Campaign for Liberty. And I do a bunch of Liberty groups and meetups, and you know, I am going to be involved with the GOP. I feel like, you know, you look at, even though we took a loss, and that's what I consider it, a loss. They stripped us away from a win, really, but I'll chalk it up as a loss. And I learned some good lessons, and maybe it's hardened me a little bit to, you know, to do some of this stuff. But you know, I'll be involved. I advocate everybody else to be involved. Anybody that leaves, or you're really just leaving the people that are there behind as well. You know, as when it comes down to your county and county committee and your municipality, you know, you definitely have to have the votes there to make the change. And you know, we've done so well, not just here in Maine, but Nevada and Oklahoma and Alaska and Louisiana, and Oregon and Iowa. You know, we have to maintain that. And, you know, third party just basically takes you out of the fold. You know, and I'm not here to sort of tell everybody to, you know, vote one way or another. I think everybody's their own individual. I'm not going to endorse one person over the other. I think what we have to keep our eyes on is the real prize, and that is all politics is local. And, you know, I know that you're running for city council. I commend you for that. And I know that there's a lot of other liberty-minded people that are taking these positions, and I don't care if it's the dog catcher. Get in there. Take these positions, because that's the only way that we're going to be respected enough to stay within it, even when it goes tough, even when it doesn't go your way. I mean, for how long did they fight to try to, get rid of slavery? I mean, we're talking a long time before that actually happened. And even though you can say what you want, but there was a lot of people, or there were our founding fathers were advocating to get rid of it from the get-go. But they stayed, generations stayed. And I'm not saying it's going to take generations to change everything. We've already had that happening now. All it's going to take is people to stay together, understand the rules, apply the rules where they, like they probably wouldn't. So, we just have to be above and beyond what they do to us,
I think we definitely need to start taking over all the positions from within and working our way up. Like you said, I'm running for city council in a town of only roughly 50,000 people, and it's just something we got to do. When you don't have Liberty candidates running, you have to become that Liberty candidate, and you can't give up. You just have to step up to the plate sometimes. If you're afraid to be out in the public eye, you got to do it. I mean, unfortunately, I believe that some persecution and some scrutiny from the public is well worth having a better life for your children and your grandchildren. I'm willing to sacrifice that. So it's just something that I think is well worth the amount of pain that it might cause you in the end. Now, someone was asking how much it cost you to go down to Tampa this whole time, and if you are going to sue to get that money back because you believe that you were screwed.
Well, I haven't really looked at suing anybody or trying to get my money back, or, I think that at that point, well, let me just answer the first question. It costs right around $3,000 from me, altogether. I brought $900 spending money down with me, and I think I had, $100 left by the time I got to the airport. But and that was after my plane and the hotel room. I mean, that's $1,200 there for the 5-night minimum. You're talking a pretty big chunk of change that not just myself but other delegates as well had to pay for. And to give you an example, there was a couple alternates, Julie and Cody Morgan. They both, they're coming from the same household. He's in college, she's a, stay-at-home mom, and, that it really takes a lot out of you. So, as far as suing, I don't have any real plans to sue. I would like to see something done as far as the rules are concerned that were passed. I think that, those rules really put a dagger right in the heart of the grassroots. And on top of that, not just Rule 16, but Rule 12 especially, that opens Pandora's box to where they can come up with whatever rules they want to from here on out. So, they actually, just to give you a heads up, they actually came up with a rule that said that you couldn't sue the RNC and Reince Priebus and all these other people. So, that's out there as well. They did that on the day that they did the National Committee Man and Committee Woman. So that's what I'm saying. This rule number 12, what I would advocate for people to do is, contact their Republican National Committee Man and Committee Woman, no matter what state you're in. Ask them to, make sure that they don't use Rule 12. I mean, they still have to go to that vote there and with all the committee men and committee women. So if you can basically, advocate to them that you feel, this is a gross injustice, and it basically, takes the heart out of the Republican Party by giving this power to the very top and taking it away from the delegates. Really, there's no reason to have conventions or there's no reason to have delegates. And at this point, if a straw poll or a primary is said to happen, and then whoever wins that, they have veto rights over whatever delegates they want. So basically what happened to Maine will happen on, a larger scale across the U.S. every 4 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. And some of those rule changes, they really just take the grassroots movement out of it whatsoever. I mean, if the presumptive nominee doesn't like the slate of delegates that he has, he's just going to kick them all out, and the RNC is going to pick new ones for him. That'll be his puppets and drones and do whatever he wants. So,
Yeah.
did anyone have one last question for Bryan while we still have him? Am I going to my state convention? No, definitely not. I'm just going to sit at home, probably play video games, and get out of politics. Just be done with it, you know?
Yeah. I'll be there.
I'll definitely be traveling to wherever I have to go and do what I can to make an impact. So I know Bryan's going to be doing that for sure. I hope everyone in this chat room, too, should be down there doing it, just supporting them, becoming active at least. That's all you can do. So one other question. Chuck, I see you asking why, and why to what?
Do I have gold and silver? No.
He had to spend all his gold and silver to get down there. It's not cheap, man. Marky, come on, you know the economy. All right, well, I think that is it. Bryan, I thank you, man, for coming on. It was very nice. Oh, one last thing, actually. There's a website I want to send you guys to. Definitely check this out. It's supporting all of the main delegates and just remembering them. There's a new T-shirt that's just come out. Check it out at least. Just look at the design. Send people to it. It's just for a good cause, so check it out.
Appreciate it. And just so everybody knows, all that money is going to be put back into the Liberty movement here in Maine. I know we're all sort of, digging in our couch for pennies and quarters. The $25 includes free shipping in the U.S. And, I appreciate anybody that goes out there and please stay involved and go to your county meetings and go to your local meetings and, just stay involved. We definitely need you to stay involved. So I appreciate the opportunity, Matt, and appreciate that you have this venue here for Liberty folks to get together. And I wish you the best of luck on your candidacy for City Council.
Thank you very much, Bryan. Have a good night, and I look forward to having you on some other time soon with much happier news, too. I have a feeling that we're going to be getting some good news in the near future. So have a good night, man.
All right. Take care.
Now, for the 47 people that we still have here, if you did not know, I am running for City Council. I do have a website. I'll link you that right here. Give me 1 second. That is my official campaign website. Also, on there you can find my Facebook link. So if you want to, you can check out, well, look at Links for Liberty I already got there right there. So if you want to, definitely go on my Facebook page. Like that, the more it spreads to the more people, hopefully in my town, they'll see that and they'll think that this guy's a very credible young person. So check it out. If you guys have any other guests or any other things that you want talked about in next week's show, send them my way. Just email me or send me a message on Facebook. It's very easy to get a hold of me. I don't know if anyone has my real Facebook. I'll put out my Facebook right now. Add me on Facebook, and we can talk about it there. I love hearing suggestions from everyone. That's my Facebook right there. So the only person I won't talk to, though, is Paul. He's this annoying New Yorker guy that just keeps talking to me. He tells me I need to vote Obama or Romney, one of the two. So also, I'm sure most of you guys have me on YouTube. The link was right up there for YouTube. So Mr. Studer, what am I doing for End the Fed September 22nd? I don't know for sure. maybe you'll see a video from me out on my public streets holding an End the Fed sign. So, you guys, thanks for coming and actually watching the show. It was very, very, very fun. Amazing guests, and the guests are definitely the people that make the show. So send them my way. If you want to get them interviewed, I'll definitely have them on. But for now, I'm Matt Larson. Go Ron Paul. Peace.